Shout out to Boxing Bros UK. Big them up. Follow them. Like, subscribe. All of that.
Hello, everybody. Boxing Bros UK here. I'm Here's the Boss Chris. We're going to be talking about the one and only Black Flash Pat Barrett. Like, a lot of you may only know him as a coach, but this guy was a hell of a fighter back in the 90s. Wow, he was exciting. A career retrospective. Pat Barrett started on Manchester, England, nickname Black Flash, the quality nickname. Power, exciting fighting style. Yes, so yeah, he fought in the amateurs. He had 26 amateur fights, winning 24, lost to Lynn Donovan or someone he lost to in the ABA finals. But yeah, he became Manchester area champion. And then the tragic thing happened to him, obviously. His mum died. He thought, fuck this shit. I need to earn money. Having a gold medal ain't going to pay the bills. So it's something along those lines. Pat Barrett, what a G. He's a geezer. But that's why everyone loved him. Because it was just so real. And he just says thinking. He's not trying to be funny, but he is, you know, like, oh, I love Pat Barrett. Like, anyway, he turned pro. He had 2 wins. And then he ended up losing to this guy in his third professional fight. But look, see, he'd only had 2. And this guy was already a good fighter. How young they are. Oh, look how regular they're fighting as well. It's nuts. Maximum exposure, all eyes on. He lost his first pro fight. And then he had a word with himself.
Losing the one against Paul Burke, a close points decision. What do you remember about that time and, you know, experiencing that first defeat early in your career? Did it set you on the path?
I think it was the most horriblest feeling you could ever possibly have when you get lose, and especially in the pro games. And I remember thinking to myself, this will never happen to me again.
And said that he's never going to lose again. And I think he went 5 years unbeaten, knocking nearly everyone out, like a 10-fight streak or something like that. So after that, he builds up a nice little steady set of wins. Look, you see that? Pat Barrett, knockout points, TKO. Yeah. And then the story behind this opponent that he draws with, Sugar gibillru. So apparently, Pat Barrett, you can be a world champion, And then he goes to spar this kid, and this kid, way back just before he turned professional, or just smashed up in sparring by this kid. It's absolutely battered from pillar to post all around the gym.
Because I remember a few years ago sparring with Sugar gibillru, and I remember him giving me hell in this gym. I mean, he knocked me from one corner post to another, and I was only an amateur. And I think it was the worst experience I ever had.
This is what Pat Barrett said. And then Pat Barrett, he turns professional, has 2 fights, loses, winning streak. And then Sugar gibillru. Yes. Even though it's not like their first actual real fight, but that sparring was in Pat's head. Obviously, he's not scared, but it was just psychological. They fight, it was this draw. So after this draw, it goes back to the drawing board, regroups, goes on a 7 fight winning spree on wicked form, unstoppable. And he fights Kevin Plant for the Central Area light welterweight title. He beats him in good style. Then after the Kevin Plant fight, has a couple of fights. This guy's fighting like every 3 weeks, 4 weeks. In between his 12-round fights, he's having 6-rounders. He was a machine, man. Talk about activity is key. Now we're lucky if people fight once a fucking year, let alone do it twice a year. I wish more fighters would do this. Just stay busy, just be fighting 6-rounders anywhere they can while they're waiting for these world titles opportunities to come up. That was a different time, and we'll never get that time again, I doubt it. He gets a couple more wins, and then he's got to defend his Central Area title. And while he was waiting for that fight to be lined up, he had 2 fights in between, 2 like 6-rounders and 8-rounders. While he was waiting for his opponent to be lined up to defend his title, and it's against his nemesis. Yes, this is the geezer that whooped him in sparring. Then when he met him in the pros, they got a draw. and now he's coming to take his strap. But Pat Barrett was just like, nah, fucking hell, not this guy again. But Brian Hughes believed in him, made him believe in himself. He owes everything to him. Yeah, great coach, the late, great Brian Hughes. So he went in there, and you bet your sweet ass he KO'd him in round 8. So this guy is kind of like his nemesis, really. Sugar gibillru, whatever his name is, he conquered him. He knocked him out in the 8th round. So he's buzzing. So he overcome that hurdle. Obviously, he was a good fighter, but if you look at his form compared to Pat Barrett's form, after their last fight, it was a draw. Pat Barrett's come on leaps and bounds on the rebuild. Sugar's not. Boom. Pat Barrett's day, round 8. Then the big news, his trainer comes around after his win to say he's got some good news. A British title fight. Tony Willis. Bearing in mind, he's just fought and it's in 4 weeks. So Tony Willis' fight was on May the 11th, and he'd fought April the 9th or something like that. So he fights Tony Willis basically about 4 weeks after his victory over Sugar gibillru, because someone pulled out of the fight. I don't know who it was, I can't remember. But someone pulled out, and again Brian Hughes convinced him, had belief in him, made him believe in himself, convinced him to take the fight, even though it's short notice, saying you didn't like, because he obviously knocked Sugar out in 8 rounds. So all he had to do was just keep ticking over. He was fresh. And, oh yes, he gets in there. British title. Pat Barrett was supposed to be like a journeyman, a last-minute opponent, giving it short notice just as a fill-in for the rising star. Like, that's what he was looked at as at the time. And then what does he go and do? Upsets the apple cart. So this Tony Willis prospect, he knocks him out. He's on good form, and he'd never been stopped. He knocks him out. Last-minute opponent, steps in, underdog. Yeah, and he wins. And he wins in style, knocks him out. Round 9. Wow. Pat Barrett is the man. Now he's getting all the love. Now he's getting the respect. He's doing well, fighting, knocking everyone out. When he was training, Pat Barrett, because he used to hit so hard, and he was bashing up all his sparring partners that were like welters or welters. He used to spar heavyweights. And one of those heavyweights that he used to spar with on the regular was John Fury, who was also a fighter at that gym. Obviously, John Fury was more of a journeyman kind of guy. Like Pat Barrett was originally started as a kind of a journeyman, but where he kept knocking everyone out and upsetting the odds, he was considered a real hot contender, that potentially world champion with shit material. At one stage, he really was. And he's one of my favourite fighters back in the day. Exciting, and a real guy. And someone drops out for a European title. He's going to Italy. And back then, you have to get a knockout to get the draw. To get the draw, he used to say, in Italy, nobody can get a decision in Italy if you're English, unless it doesn't happen. He's fighting Calamatti. And this guy, he was a champ, and it was the last minute. Again, I think he just had a fight, and then he was going to be taking this one like 3 or 4 weeks' notice. And then, yeah, he said that Brian Hughes said to him, if you win this, no one goes to Europe and gets the win. He says, if you can beat this guy in his own town, yeah, and you have to get a knockout to get the draw here, remember that. You will be able to write your own checks. And he said, you will 100% be a world champion, because this is what it takes to be a world champion, to win these type of fights. And not everyone, even some world champions haven't done this. gone into Italy's backyard, got a result. Back then, there was a lot more hokey pokey in the late 80s, early 90s. People won't go on about robberies. Today, some of the decisions, back in the day, there was a lot more suspicious things going on back then. But anyway, calamatti fight. His backyard, European champion. And look at this guy's record, man. He seems to be on a winning experienced guy. And Pat Barrett gets in there, 23 years old. And he knocks him out round 4. It was a beautiful KO as well. Like, it is absolutely brutal, because, like, you know, when someone pulls back, and then they come forward, like when they move forward onto the shot. So they're trying to slip it, and then you get time. So as the punch is coming in, they're not seeing it, and they're moving their head into the punch. While the punch is coming out in full force. Boom! lands on his face. Like, brutal. This was one of the highlights of his career. Great win. Wasn't supposed to win. Last minute opponent again. Had about 1 million fights in between defending his British title. If anyone could bring that back, it'd be great. The activity, because that can really help build your fan base if you just see this guy fighting all the time and winning. Because he was taking risks, you know, and then not motivating fights just to earn some dough. Love the game. He just loved fighting. So it's a store he used to fight. Great work ethic, man. He knocks the Italian out. Round 4. This is it. Now, Pat Barrett is like, everyone's pitting him to be a world champion. He's getting his respect. He's getting his kudos. This is how popular and mad it was at the time about Pat Barrett fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. Bearing in mind, at the time, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. was undefeated and he was like on 80 wins, no losses. 80. Like, forget maybe it was 50. 80 wins, no losses, even though he ended up losing eventually. But that's a hell of a record. Another fighter fighting regular all the time. In between his title fight, like, dude, these is the old school. These are the boys. These boys were warriors. Proper, not just once a year. Twice, if we're lucky. You never know, because if Pat Barrett would have had the fear because it's Chavez, because he was a good little fighter. Like, when he was up for it, obviously, I'm a fucking big fan of Pat Barrett, but I think in his prime, if things have gone better, if he would have got the fights, I think we would have seen the best of him. If he would have had that Chavez Senior fight, I believe he could have won. Because when he was in that mode, when he loved boxing, that's when he was wicked. He didn't stop that European kid, that calamatti, in his own area in 4 rounds. If he would have got that Julio Cesar Chavez Senior fight, he could have won or gave a good account of himself and stayed on the scene and stayed motivated. They tried to make the fight and it nearly got made twice, but obviously it never happened.
Later.
He was struggling with the fame. How can I explain the psychology of it? So Pat Barrett is on top of that. Brian Hughes would say, right, you just got to sit there and smile. And he's like, because he's had a bad performance, that, why didn't he do this? And basically criticizing him, his boxing and stuff like that. And why doesn't he fight this? And just basically getting on his nerves. And Pat Barrett said, I was thinking in my head, I'm sitting there smiling, I'm thinking, you are a dickhead. Who the fuck do you think you are? You fucking prick. I don't want to talk to you. I want to fucking headbutt you, for fuck's sake. But I've got to sit there and smile and chill and listen to all these dickheads bullshit that they know nothing. They've never boxed a day in their life and they're trying to fucking criticize me. Like, fuck off. And I've got to sit here smiling and listen to it. He hated it. And he just didn't care. He cared for Brian, but he didn't give a shit about anyone's respect, like the British public or whatever. The respect that he respect was in the streets, and it was always in the streets, and that's it. I'm not going to go into it, and that's what he respected. His friends who he grew up with, and they always rolled together, no matter what. He was doing his boxing, they was doing their thing, but they'll always be friends, family. And he just couldn't deal with the life. And he just absolutely had enough of it. And that's when he was starting to fall out of love with boxing and just concentrating on setting up businesses or whatever. And the Chavez Senior fight never happened. And then next, he gets a world title against Manning Galloway, 1992. Bang up for it. It's got to be rescheduled. And he's like, fuck. Gets rescheduled, then after it gets rescheduled, then it gets cancelled. So that's twice he's got ready and it's been cancelled. And then finally, and Frank Warren's the one who sorted this fight. He ended up, I think he left Mickey Duff and he was with Frank Warren at this time. He thinks, right, it's definitely happening, because he's waiting in the dressing room for Brian Hughes to come through to wrap his hands and all that. And this is the day, fight day. By the way, it's not cancelled like the other times, got cancelled before fight day, which Brian Hughes came in and said, Manning Galloway, brother, has been shot in London somewhere, dead. So the fight's off. And it's like, this was the 4th time. And he was just absolutely devastated because he's got in training camp for the same opponent 4 times. Fuck me. That is mind games. If you can try and get away with that. But like 4 reschedules, I would have just changed opponent, just trying to go a different way. Chase that Chavez Jr. fight. Kept trying to fight this fucking fight. What can you say? That the other times you can get because you paid all your training expenses, and this time the guy's brother's been shot dead. So you're pissed off it's been cancelled again for the 4th time. But you can't. It's not his fault. That's his family. You know. It was just a horrible situation for him. To be fair. and to have the world title fight. And he's just said he wasn't up for it because it cancelled so many times. He didn't believe it was going to happen. He just couldn't get motivated. He was just like, oh, whatever. And it didn't sink in that it was actually happening until he was getting his hands wrapped. And then I think he forgot his bloody protector. And someone said, I'll go and get it. And he was like, nah, don't worry about it. And he got in his own car, drove back to his hotel, got his protector and drove back, where normally should have sent someone to go and get it for him while he's preparing for the fight, warming up, doing whatever, listening to his tunes, getting all his body rubbed down, hitting the pads, like whatever it is, he should have been doing that. Concentrating, just wasn't really thinking straight. And obviously, he didn't listen to his coach. He said, Brian Hughes said, don't chase him, let him come on to you, play possum, let him come on to you. Don't chase him around the ring because that's what he wants. He loves fighting on the back foot. He loves to chase him. He was obviously disappointing, but by then, that's when Pat Barrett's love for boxing started to come to an end. So after he loses his world title, back to the drawing board, but he's really had enough of the boxing community, the fans, 1 minute they love you, next minute they hate you, and all that. Just thought the are all dickheads, just because it was all fake. So he was hanging out with his friends, respected the street people more than the boxing people because they were real, And he was just had enough of it, all the fakeness and smiling when we don't even like him, and he's. They were dickheads, and he'd had enough. So he ended up losing his British title. Then he fought again for WBF. So this was like the IBO back in the day. He was trying to become a commission, and it just flopped. There was a few of these. I think it was a WBU. They might even still be going. Anyway, he had a couple more fights, made just some ticket selling fights, not for anything, and then retired at 28. Now, that's hella early. He should have been coming into his prime. Although you'd say his prime was when he was like 22, when he was a lot younger, when he knocked out the Italian and he went on that winning streak. 28 was quite young to retire. Then he becomes a trainer. So he retires at 28. Obviously, Brian Hughes tried to get him to come back. I think he might have tried one fight or something. He just couldn't motivate, but he still worked at the gym with Brian Hughes as a coach at Collyhurst Gym, Mustang Lads Gym, Club Gym, Manchester. So he knows the Fury family. Anyway, and he ended up becoming Tyson Fury's coach at the early start of his pro career. I don't think he had any fights with him. He might have had one fight, but he'd been working with Tyson, Pat, as the head coach. And obviously in February in 2003, he gets arrested, shooter, and small amounts of recreational stuff, you know what I mean? He's getting sent down, and this is when he was living in London, and he's retired. He's living in London, living that celebrity lifestyle, chilling with So Solids and this and that, doing his thing. And then obviously, he gets arrested in a hotel with a pistol, some recreational bits and pieces. Hughes comes to his sentencing, and then obviously speaks for him, like to the judge, and gives a heartwarming speech, a really, really heartwarming speech about how hard Pat Barrett's life has. Losing his mom, dad was never really there. Dad lives in Jamaica, hardly ever seen him. His mom died, then his sister died. Like, he's had a hard. If you watch his interviews, this guy really strong-minded, how he keeps going and achieve, because he has been through a lot. If you watch anything about his life, this man, and he still carries on, and he's still doing great things and keeping it together. Obviously, you can say what you want about him. That's just hearsay. We don't know him. We don't know what's going on. And I don't want to know what's going on. All I know is, from what I see and what I've heard, I respect the man. And what a guy with all that loss. Imagine in yourself losing a mother, a sister, another sister, friends, and to be able to keep going and still be functioning and not go off the rails and not go back to jail. Obviously, I know he went on remand a couple of times, but always ended up getting no face, no case, let out, everything squashed, and he just got that 3.5 years for that, because Brian Hughes spoke. Everyone makes mistakes, 3.5 years, is pretty decent. So whatever Brian Hughes said to the judge, because you got 3.5 years. Normally, if you get caught with a gun, you get like 4 years for the gun, and then every bullet is like a year or 6 months a bullet or something stupid like that. So You get caught with a gun, fully loaded, at least 6 years. If you go not guilty and try and beat it and get convicted, you get 8 years. You get a third off for your early guilty plea. To get 3.5 years, really, you should have been getting about 6 years because of what Brian Hughes said, which is quite remarkable. And bearing in mind, Brian Hughes drove down from Manchester to London, Old Bailey, to give that statement. He must have really loved Pat Barrett, like a father-son relationship. Pat Barrett says, I wouldn't have achieved anything I've achieved in boxing if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, but I mean, if it wouldn't have been through Brian, I mean, he gave me really good guidance. And he actually, you know, when I was making money, he made me save money up, put money away. I mean, he did everything right with us. I mean, he took me in like a son, really. Especially when my mum died, he was the only person that I had, and he's always been there for us.
So he always gives the flowers to Brian Hughes, and he loved that man. Brian Hughes absolutely loved Pat Barrett. They loved him. Like, we drove down from Manchester just to say, please, he's had a hard life. He made a mistake. Don't do this to him. You know, he's a good guy. Pat Barrett, he got out and he never went, but he went on remand a few times, but released. So, you know, no face, no case. So he gets out of prison. Brian Hughes' gym. I think Brian Hughes is starting to get dementia. And then Pat Barrett and I can't remember who it was. Tommy something. They take over Brian Hughes' gym and they rebuild it. Fresh blood coming through. And they started training Scott Quigg, Matty Hall, Matty Askin. They set up Black Flash Promotions. After he got out of prison, rebuilding Brian's gym, making it great again. He had his nephew, Zelfa Barrett, his sister who passed. That was her son. I love his attitude even more as a coach, because when he was in a fighter sometimes, and he come off a bit cold or a bit shy sometimes, because he could just, you know, just couldn't be arsed with the media because he thought, oh, dickheads, and don't want to speak to us. I'll never forget it when Tunde Ajayi, shout out Tunde, interviewed him. He's a funny guy. He's an eccentric when he says this.
Talking about punching people in the face. It ain't, see, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm this close from going back to the road. From switching to, but I've left that life.
So you said going back to the road.
All right, listen, it's finished. It's finished. No. I've left that, my man. I've left that. I'm trying to set an example. You see, you're talking again, Pat. All right, let's go. Again, lovely. That's it.
Any
That's the
closing
energy.
comments, Pat? Any final?
That's the energy.
No.
Right. Like, we can take it to the roads. And then Pat Barrett just goes nuts. And I'm thinking, ooh, it's the boogeyman. He's come out. Like, it was, yeah. It made me laugh. And Tunde still held his own, though. It was just like, because he's not the fighter, Pat didn't have to hold back. When he was the fighter, he couldn't say what he said to Tunde. He had to try and keep it PC to try and become a household name and all that. And he wasn't down for that AJ stuff.
Pat, you walked away from that press conference, clearly agitated. Yeah, just give me a summary, obviously, of what just happened there, because more of the talking did come from yourself and Tunde.
You know, when you've got somebody what just talks rubbish and tries to portray an image what they're not, and then talk about they can go back to road, I don't, whatever that means. Road to me is I've never left that road mentality. I am what I am. I've grown up a little bit. These kind of idiots don't know about respect, because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, even up to a tramp on the street, you've got to respect. Even if I don't like him, I still respect him. Even if I'm going into a fight and I can beat someone, I still respect him because I'll be prepared well.
Pat, obviously the comment that kind of was brought to attention from Team Yard was when you did say to Tunde that you will punch his face in. So, in hindsight, do you regret saying that to him or not?
Why would I regret saying it? It is what it is. Yeah, I'll talk how I think. I'll talk how I feel. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't like him, but don't come up and talk all that rubbish, talking about you ain't a bad man. I don't declare to be a bad man. But I'll tell you what, though, I'm a badder man than he could ever be if he wanted to go down that road. Yeah, I'm here now. If a man said to me, I'm gonna punch you in the face, do you want us to think I'd be stood on the other side of the fucking room? I'd run over him and say, what are you gonna punch in the face? Yeah. Because as far as I'm concerned, I threw it on you. Throw it back now. It's like tennis. You're fucking serve. You ain't gonna serve it. Shut the fuck up. Simple.
Wow. Pat Barrett's career as a boxer. He's got 37 wins, 28 KOs, 5 losses, 1 draw. You know, European champion, defended it. British champion, defended it. Like, he had a good career. And had he got the Chavez senior fight, or had he fought Galloway the first time, things would be different. But if my mum had been my dad, I'd be dead. He's an excellent coach. Zelfa went on to be a world champion. I think he lost to Kiko Martinez, got knocked out. He's done well. Obviously, I know he's not training Zelfa at the moment. Lyndon Arthur has become European champion in IBO. Yeah, it's IBO, but from what they came from, that's a lot. That's a great, great achievement, you know? It is what it is. He's still training other fighters, doing well. He's still doing his own small hall shows around Manchester. Great fighter, great coach, and he is a geezer.
Help!